Hi, we are group number 4, discussing chapter number 4 of To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. My name is Mary Catherine Harder, and my partner's name is Savannah Anderson.
So there's five main points that me and Mary Catherine came up with the chapter 4. The main theme that we thought that Daniel Pink presents in this chapter is atonement, which is the ability to bring one's actions and outlook into harmony with other people and with the context you are in. With atonement, there are three different principles that Daniel Pink presents in chapter 4, which is increase your power by reducing it, understanding another person's perspective. The second one is use your head as much as your heart, which is perspective taking. And the third one is mimic strategy, which is proved to be effective and more likely to create a deal. We talked about mimic strategy a little bit in class with a video of Daniel Pink explaining that, and we'll talk about all three of those a little bit more in the next slide. The fifth thing is the ambivert advantage, and are they the best salespeople? Is an extrovert or an introvert the best salespeople? We'll talk about that a little bit more as well. And so one of the messages that we think Daniel Pink sends to his audience in chapter 4 starts with your encounter with the assumptions that you are in position of power, which kind of goes along with the increase your power by reducing it strategy and principle that he gives. Feeling powerful can impair our capacity to lead effectively. So if you're leading with power, you're more able to present with power. A quote that I took from chapter 4 that I thought really spoke to me, and a message that I thought Daniel Pink sent was, we can't force them to do things. So what we need to do is get out of our heads and see things from their point of view. And that kind of goes along with the use your head as much as your heart. You want to put yourself in other people's perspective. Empathy can sometimes be very good, but also thinking with your own head and seeing what other people were to possibly be thinking is a really good sales tactic. Also, when we mirror them, we have a better sense of where they are coming from, which goes along with the mimic strategically principle that Daniel Pink offers us, which is, like I said, proved to be effective and more likely to create a deal. And so when we talked about this in class a little bit and watched the video of Daniel Pink, he kind of talks about when you are selling to somebody, when we're looking at somebody's attitudes, how they're acting, how they are sitting, even if they're sitting with their hands kind of on their chin, leaned back, you kind of want to mimic that. So it kind of makes the conversation flow better. It makes the person feel more comfortable.
So the next message that we think Daniel Pink is trying to send is about the ambivert advantage. So an ambivert are people who are neither overly extroverted nor widely introverted, so they find a balance between the two, so they know when to speak up and shut up. So most people believe that the best salesperson would be an extrovert, but the notion is actually not true. There's really no evidence that proves that to be true. And so introverts are geared to inspect, while extroverts are geared to respond. And so selling anything requires a balance between the two, which is where an ambivert comes into. And so an ambivert knows when to speak up and shut up. They have a wider repertoire that allows them to achieve harmony between the two. And ambiverts are the best movers because they're the most skilled attuner. So they understand a little mix between both of them, which helps them to be a better salesperson. So the next message, we think, are some of the examples of attunement methods that Daniel Pink described. So the first is practice strategic mimicry, and with that is watch, wait, and wane. So what makes salespeople extraordinary is their ability to adjust what they do and how they do it with others in their midst. So 3 ways to do that are the first, which is watch. So you want to observe what the person is doing The second is wait. So after observing, you're going to wait and then follow their lead through. And by doing this, you're going to mimic some of their actions, but don't do it too much or it's obvious. And the last is weighing, which after the mimicking is done, you want to be a little less conscious of what you're doing. The second is pull up a chair method, and this is done by Jeff Bezos at Amazon. So whenever he holds a meeting with his team of executives and marketing teams and everyone else, he always adds an extra chair to the table but leaves it empty. And this is to represent the most important person of the meeting, which is the client. And so it's something that we should all try to do, is learn to attune yourself to others. So when you exit your own perspective, you're going to enter theirs, which is essential to moving others when you're selling for them. And the last is find uncommon commonalities. So research has shown that we are more likely to be persuaded by those that we are like, and we typically like people that we are similar to. And so doing this allows you to be a better salesperson because you understand their needs and wants, and by finding these similarities, you're attuning yourself to others and you're helping them attune to yourself as well.
So how does this message relate to the future for us? So with future job experience, something that we found in this chapter that will help the reader is being able to adapt to a new perspective of another mind. And so doing that is really important because putting ourselves in the buyer's shoes will help us to see what they need and what they want and how we can accommodate to that. Also becoming more comfortable with being an extrovert or an introvert. We talked a little bit about ambiverts in the previous slides and about how extroverts can be sometimes more loud and introverts can be sometimes more quieter. They both have advantages to being a good listener and a good question asker. And I think that that's important for going into a future sales or a future job experience, because having those kind of qualities can get you really far. In a future as a salesperson, something that we found through chapter 4 was having a deeper understanding of the people we are selling to. Another thing is impacts anyone going into sales because it affects us all as a seller. Everything that we learned in chapter 4 goes hand in hand with becoming a good seller. Also, it allows a diverse perspective other than our own. The people that we're going to be working with when we grow up and we start getting into the workforce, it allows us to be around so many different types of diverse people and people that have different perspectives, and being able to adapt to that is super important.